I will call the meeting to order. The Committee of the Whole, Tuesday, January 21 at 5 PM on the dot. I would ask Brandy to note roll call. I would note that Callie is out ill and Brandy and Reese have agreed to fill in for her, so thank you. Let us know if we need to slow down or we're doing something that you can't, that isn't right. I would also ask, does anybody hear from either Tashidra or Jim? Okay. Okay, all right. So with that, I have no other announcements for Committee of the Whole unless someone else does. We will then move to the minutes from 12/17/2024. It's the first meeting after the holidays, so I hope everybody had a good holiday and welcome back.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Bill Landgraf.
Second.
And a second by Rebecca. Are there any comments, edits, or corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, items for discussion, update regarding the 2024 building permit report. Brandy.
Please hold. Jim's here too. Okay, thank you. All right, so the building permit report was in your packet. It was, I was very excited about this final report for 2024. Last year, for the 2023 report, I was a little bummed that we were just shy of 100 million in estimated added value. So I made up for that this year with the help of the entire development team and everything going on in the village to 2024 as a total. We brought $244.6 million worth of estimated value into the village through development.
Wow.
The total number, I know, isn't that awesome?
It is. Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, it was a huge team effort and a lot goes into all of that work. So kudos to the whole team. Total residential units that were added were 443. That would be 76 single family, 52 duplex or condo units. That would be what we lovingly call in-house the SIPO condos. 315 multifamily units and 24 commercial, which would be either brand new commercial or commercial remodels or additions that added value to that use. So it was quite a bit happening throughout the year. The second page of the report basically just breaks down the housing units that are available per development that are approved and out there right now. Gives you an idea of for each development with the number of units that were approved. The last column shows the percentage of that development that is complete. So that's important for, you know, us to track because we want to make sure that there is land out there for residential in the future to be developed. So this helps us track, you know, how close we are to filling up those already approved units that are out there. And then the table on the top is for single family duplex condo. Table on the bottom is for multifamily. So that way we can also track the balance between multifamily and single family residential throughout the community. Last page of the report is just a breakdown of the added value for both residential and commercial that have been added to our TIDs. And this breakdown is important because you guys make a lot of decisions through development agreements and approvals that include TID, TID financing. These are important numbers for you to see of the value that's being brought into the TIDs by the developments that are being approved by the village. So that is my quick run through. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Up here, I apologize. And industrial is that blended with commercial?
It is commercial. So yeah, it's under the state building permit, all industrial is classified commercial. Under our zoning districts, there's a difference between commercial and industrial, but as far as building goes, it's all under the umbrella of the commercial.
Well,
What does the 46% represent?
very last number.
Last.
Oh, that is, so that number actually should not be on there.
Then that makes sense.
Yep. So I think what I did was copy down the formulas and it filled it all the way through. So ignore 46%.
Okay,
Unless I come up with a really creative reason that number would work for something.
Quick question. I'm curious, we've heard about how we are over some TID cap number as far as like percentage and TID, and I'm curious what the actual, was it the village value that you compared?
Yeah, it's the equalized
Over.
value in all of the village versus, compared to, the amount of equalized value within all of the tax increment districts. That amount can't be more than 12%. Where at the last count, we were at about approximately 23%. And so that's just showing the rate of our growth within the tax increment districts.
Okay. Out of curiosity, what is our total village equalized value? Sounds like it's a number of billions.
well, Bill looks for that number on equalized value. Are there other questions on this report? One of my impressions is that we've been really busy and we really appreciate it. But when staff said they're really busy, they really had to have been. So good work, you guys. So while he's looking for that number, we can continue on down to the next item, is unless you know where it is, Bill. Okay, it's a figure he can get out.
Yeah, I have it here. It's 2.27 billion.
2.27 billion. Okay, great.
That is both real estate and personal property.
Okay. All right. Let's then move to 5.2, discussion regarding potential use of funds from affordable housing extension of tax increment district number 3. Alex?
Yeah, so we had this discussion in November, I believe it was the last time. The memo is included in your packet with the changes reflecting feedback and comments from the last time we discussed this included, as well as some additional commentary. So I did mention in the memo that one of the questions I think, Bill, you might have brought forth was how does providing a loan for the down payment assistance affect their ability to get some financing? And it obviously is considered debt. So the two financial institutions that I talked to, that probably wouldn't be a great route to go to provide that as an additional loan for their down payment in terms of helping them secure financing. If it were structured as a grant, that would theoretically improve their chances of securing financing. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into that a bank looks at, but that would be a helpful approach. So a lot of the changes that are in this reflect that. And then the other piece that I think Rebecca and everybody actually had kind of touched on was what's our recourse? If there's a default, talking a little bit with Al, we would basically put a lien on the property in the case of default and then try to secure payment after that. We would likely be in second position on that to an existing mortgage. So those were two of the questions from last time. One thing that did come up that we didn't discuss at the first time was the approval mechanism, whether each individual applicant, and I'm thinking primarily in Fund 2, if you recall, there were two separate funds. Whether each applicant and agreement for any program in Fund 2 would then need to come back before the village board each time, or if the CDA was administering it before the CDA each time for approval. That could potentially get to hopefully be a lot of applicants coming in. Again, in talking with Al a little bit, there could be a mechanism where a draft template agreement could be put together and then the board could authorize staff to basically execute those agreements. And then if there are any substantial changes, we'd have to bring it back to you all. So that's something that I think I'd like some clarity on. Maybe I'll just pause on that one there and see if there's any thoughts one way or the other before we kind of maybe just go through the rest of the program.
Rebecca?
I would be amenable to having a base approved by the board. And then, like you were saying, if there's a substantial change coming back, because I think this is something that sometimes you need to move a little quick. There's a lot of time sensitivity with some of that stuff. So if we can streamline it without affecting the integrity, then I would be in favor of that.
So, just so I understand, I think, I didn't hear part of what you said.
Oh, I was just saying that I liked the idea of having a basic format of the agreements. And then the only time that they would need to come back to the board, that we would have to approve. And then if any substantial changes were required, then that would have to come back. And that would help streamline the process a little bit better to help, especially with those sometimes time-sensitive issues.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. Jim?
Sorry, this is not one of the comments I wrote down, but bouncing off of what you're commenting, I just know there's different instances in our like zoning code that it was staff, say approval, and if for some reason the applicant disagreed with staff, then they could come to the village board then, so I,
It's sort of an appeal.
yeah. It's an appeal.
Yeah, sure. My question is it this board or is it the CDA?
Yeah, and so I left the CDA in this part. I think based on our last discussion, I think the sense that I got from you all was that we would prefer not to have it be CDA. And most of that, if I recall the discussion, was because essentially the staff that would be administering it is basically the same, whether it's CDA or village board. The reason I threw it back in here as a question is from the approval standpoint, there is obviously a difference. If we were to think about having that approval entity be, either village board or CDA, village board meets twice a month, CDA meets once a month. So that was sort of the
Sure.
thought about bringing that back in.
Sure. Jim and then Rebecca. Not Jim.
Yeah, we talked about, the questions about qualifications and of course, income level. Are there any other criteria you use, credit score? Like a bank would, you don't want to be giving out loans to somebody with a 400 credit. Are we going to see that, what the base is? Things like that.
Yeah, so if you were to go, well, I guess regardless, but definitely if you were to go the route of maybe a template agreement and then having staff level approval, we would have all the criteria reviewed by you all before making that decision. So whether that's credit scores or like for the CDA or for our revolving loan program, we do review credit scores. There's a number of other things too. We could flesh that out and make sure that if there's any deviations from that would have to come back or just be a hard no, one or the other.
Right, thanks.
Okay. Rebecca?
Two things, actually. One, kind of piggybacking on what he was just saying about, sorry, I'm still a little muddled from being sick last week. I'm assuming that some of these things would be tied to some type of a loan from the bank. So I would think, would all of them or just some of them? I'm thinking it's just some of them.
Some of them. In fact, I think the down payment assistance one in here, we can go through the
Yeah.
changes here. I
Well,
think that
those
one
I-
was conditioned on securing financing.
I mean, I would want to see, I would want to see that anything that's tied to a loan that's going to be going through a bank is contingent on that approval.
Yeah, 100%.
I wouldn't want to be giving these loans or grants or whatever out with, especially if there's a bank loan involved, without that bank loan being approved as well.
Yep.
Kind of like a contingency on a real estate deal. But that's probably my biggest thing. I just want to make sure that we've got our checks and balances in place so that if something on that end should fall through, we're not just automatically giving them something.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was it.
Okay.
So let me phrase it this way. Is there anybody who would like these applications to come up each time to the village board?
Oh,
Okay. That's helpful. I guess I'm gonna zoom in here because now I'm getting. We'll just do a quick rundown and then we'll open it up for questions. So again, one of the things that was discussed was splitting, having a more even split between the larger development fund and then the sort of home improvements and down payment assistance fund. We did that, so it'd be a 50-50 split of funds. For the development fund, I heard that there should be a priority on owner occupied developments. When we go to put together scoring criteria for that, we'll make sure that that is included in that criteria. I did include in a couple different spots in this document reference to different income levels and a dollar amount, just to be clear of all the different degrees that we're talking about here. So you'll see that scattered throughout the document. Here you'll see that the CDA is eliminated from administration of that. Same thing here. As Bill Administrator Chang mentioned last time, some of the funds through the TID 3 housing extension can be used to pay for administrative costs. There was a question of how we would fund staff time for this. So that's important to note in this as well. So one of the things that I heard last time too was a preference rather than having these programs be age-based, so restricted to applicants who are 62 and up. They should be income-based. And then if they're making, say, if they're 55 or 54 instead of 62, but they're still making those improvements for aging in place and accessibility, who cares? It's essentially updating the property for those things anyway. So that change is reflected here as well. We did discuss interest rates. I put those down at a 0% interest rate. For eligibility purposes for the income, so two things going on here. One, to be eligible for the grant component of this program, the applicant should be earning at or below 60% of area median income. Again, for reference, a two-person household at 60% is earning just under $60,000 a year. To be eligible for the program in general, meaning the loan portion of this for aging in place improvements, I set the limit at 100% AMI, which again, for reference, for a two-person household is making $97,000 or less. That's certainly open to discussion. Yeah.
Is it appropriate for a question?
sure. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering how appropriate, say, like the AMI is when you talk about like a two-person versus a one-person. Should we be talking more about like a household, and does it really matter how many people is in that household? I'm assuming that's falling back to the affordability thing rather than See what I'm getting at? If it's one person owning a home, it's harder, I'll say, for that one person to make the income of two.
Sure.
So how does that play?
Yep, I get what you're saying. So and that's probably just a clarification in how this is written. So the income eligibility is based on the area median income regardless of the household composition in terms of the number. I just included that reference of a two-person household just for informational purposes. So if it was a single individual owning a home, at 100% AMI, that would be a different AMI. Are you saying maybe that there's a sliding scale for a single homeowner earning 80%? I guess maybe I'm not clear.
Well, again, I'm assuming it's tied to the affordability part of what we're getting from the TIF, so I don't want to go against that. But to me, if, say, whatever our average home is, say it's 400,000, somebody living there making 80,000 as a single person is going to have just as hard a time maintaining it as a person, as a two household making the same 80,000. That makes sense?
Yeah,
But I'm assuming the 80,000 of a single probably wouldn't meet the AMI requirement.
they probably would.
Okay.
They probably would. But I can double check on those and maybe the final time that we come and look at this, provide a table of what that looks like, just so you can understand the various dollar amounts.
Yep, and that's maybe a comment rather than putting in examples every time. Maybe we have a table or something, a sidebar that says what those are.
Okay.
Thank you.
And where are we in the process with this?
So I would like to see if there's any further changes. I think from here, I'd like the next step in terms of this program to be sort of a final-ish draft. This is mostly just getting the parameters and then drafting up in detail. We have until March-ish to adopt the extension resolution, which would then basically say we're using TID 3, we're taking the housing extension. After April 15th, we would the village board would adopt a terminating resolution for TID 3, which would essentially make this year, 2025, the final year of increment that the district receives. And then the revenue from that in 2026 would be used to basically capitalize this program. So timing wise, there is a little bit of time to get this set in place. But I would certainly like to have the next go around be pretty close.
So you're wanting it in March? Was that the short answer?
Yes, to adopt the extension resolution. That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. All right. Any other questions? Anything else you want to ask us or share with us, Alex?
Well, I mean, I guess we could continue going through.
Sure.
Otherwise, if there's no other comments and all the changes seem okay, I'm happy to not do that and just take questions either way.
Jim?
Sorry, I have a mouthful, but
Questions or food?
yeah, I have opinions, but I want to ask it in a form of a question because say like you're showing 0% interest. Is there a reason why everything is 0% and why we didn't go with the option of saying doing 2 if it say is a higher AMI or something like that?
That was the direction that I thought I heard from the last time, was to keep it at 0, but that can be revisited or adjusted, I guess.
That is what we discussed.
Okay, I'm fine with that then.
So generally, the 0% applies to the affordability of the loan itself in these situations. If you attach an interest, no longer in our days here, generally, there are other programs out there that may offer, that in between that 2 to 5% interest rate. And what we want to do, again, kind of going back to the policy, and the ability to use the tax increment district as use these funds to fill in gaps where it's the hardest to obtain funding.
Okay. Rebecca?
Speaking on this interest rate, I don't have a problem with it being 0%. My question would be is if anyone were to ever have difficulty paying, should we have a provision that you have X amount of time and then it goes up to 1%? I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box here off the top of my head, but I want to make sure that people are repaying these loans so that we can continue to do this. And I think that might, I don't know, what's your host thought is in terms of an incentive to make sure you're paying on time to keep that at 0%? Are they going to be automatic payments, automatic withdrawals, or are we just hoping they pay? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, we could certainly, if the borrower wants to set up automatic payments, they can do that. They also have the option to submit check payments too. You're saying if there's missed payments occurring?
Yeah, maybe they get a buy once, maybe even twice, but on that third time, then an interest rate starts to kick in. Not retroactive, just from that point on.
It's certainly something we could explore. I don't know that that would be the kicker to then that would.
Or just
them
some
to
kind
start
of
making
penalty
payments
fee.
per se, but obviously the agreement will have penalties associated with default and not
Okay.
to. We can explore tacking on an interest rate. I just don't know how much that's gonna incentivize somebody to really.
I was literally just
Yep.
thinking
No,
it
I know. I'm
off the top of my head, so.
spitballing it too here, so.
Jan?
I guess I think Rebecca makes a good point about will there be automatic payments? I would think we would almost need to do that nowadays. And so I guess we need to find out what the cost would be for something like that, because we don't know, do we?
I turn to our finance department.
If you're referring to direct withdrawals, it doesn't guarantee the payment's going to get made. Your bank account could not have enough funds to cover the draw.
I understand that, but I still think it would be important. So do we know what the costs of like that type of program would be?
I don't believe there would be a cost to us to have automatic payments set up.
Good to know.
For reference, so on the CDA side of things, our residents have automatic payments set up and we don't pay anything for that. So it's just borne by them.
I don't know what the incentive is if someone is struggling to pay to put interest rate on it and they're not going to be able to make that payment maybe either. So it may, we may need to think through another way of incentivizing or providing a class or providing something
Right.
to try and support getting them back online.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a lien on their property. It's a pretty big incentive too.
And I'm certainly not tied to that. It was literally just a thought that went through my head.
Tashidra?
I don't know if we talked about it much, but some of the different committees that I sit on and housing things that we do, have we thought about, and this is just planting a seed with what we're trying to do with affordability and helping individuals. If you need this program, it's already identified that you don't have the money. So interest rates would make it would make it even harder, right? If you don't have it without the interest, you're not going to have it with the interest. But what kind of, with this program, could we add some type of financial literacy or some type of education to help these individuals start off successfully, right? To help them understand the program that they're getting into, to help them understand how to approach being successful, since we're actually giving them an opportunity to get into a home and be successful. I know there's a school, One Choice School, they're helping their community members actually get homes. And it's part of getting, you get the home, you get the loan, but then it's wraparound in terms of the education, the development, and the training that you need to not only get the home, but keep the home and be successful as a new homeowner. So maybe that's some of the tools that we can put into this to incentivize helping them to be successful rather than tacking on more punitive choices, but actually more encouragement to be successful. And then that way we're actually pouring into the community and building and enriching and making this program sustainable in the long run. And then maybe they'll get more houses and we can develop more rather than giving them something and then turning it into something punitive if you don't be successful.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think WHEDA, WHEDA, with some of their programs and probably other institutions do also provide sort of that, like a home buyer education class or first time homeowner, financial literacy, those types of things. I would probably reach out to a couple different organizations to see if there's an opportunity to collaborate with that or tap into that, and then maybe some local financial institutions as well.
If you need some suggestions, just ask me.
Right? I will ask.
Great. All right, Jim.
So one comment I'll say is for down payments. I personally struggle with that and the loans and the grants, and I'm not offering, say, a change, but I'd say for grants, I think it should be quite a bit more stringent versus giving loans, but I think that would be part of the application procedure. So I don't feel anything that you've written needs a change. And there's two things that I think is maybe a policy thing that maybe we need direction from the board or from you. So I say from a zoning perspective, you have different areas that might be declining. And I personally think it might be preferential for the village in general, like to target those areas. I don't want to call them blighted, but say a targeted area that maybe we change the AMI instead of 80 to 100, it can go up to 150 or something. But again, does that now trip off the affordability issue? So that's one thing that I wanted to discuss. And I think I see Alan thinking over here. I don't know if it's Alan or you. Yeah.
So you're saying targeting specific quality of housing stock or areas of the community?
Yeah, I'm saying if there's a location that we want to say, okay, this block, we want to improve because we're worried about, say, lack of maintenance. So it's like, then we can market to that block and say, okay, this is available to you. You don't have to be 80 or 100. You can even be up at 120 or 150, whatever, and qualify for this loan, the paint or do your roof or whatever.
Yeah, so I recall you talking about that, about specific areas in housing stock in the community at the last time that we discussed this. And I thought I put it in here, but I didn't. So on the down payment assistance and home improvement program, there could be, rather than an area of the community, there could be certain criteria that the home has to meet from either a maintenance or an age perspective, those types of things that I think may have the effect of targeting the housing stock that you might consider to be aging more. So stuff like that, I think might go in to address that. I thought I put it in, but I guess not.
Yeah, maybe that's even part of an application as far as the age of the home or lack of maintenance or things too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the last thing that I think is maybe more of a discussion is, I think it was one of the last things where it talked about the local public service individuals and there was a list.
Yep.
I wonder if that's a complete list.
Probably not. I'm sure I'm missing. So if you have thoughts or suggestions, please.
Again, I feel like it's more for discussion, but I mean, we're listing off, I'd say right now it's all divorce related agencies.
Right.
And I wonder if that's what we're targeting or if we're targeting, say, like somebody that works at the state or the county or Windsor or whatever? Just are we specifically targeting the service industry or are we targeting the forest specifically?
Yeah, so that's definitely a policy level decision. And the reason that this is more oriented towards the entities that are within our community is that's kind of what we heard throughout some of our housing surveys and different activities, is that this thought of people who work here should also be able to live here, specifically as it relates to public service employees. But you're right. I mean, this is very localized. If that's not necessarily, or if you want to broaden the scope of that, that's 100% up for discussion.
All right, Bill,
Along those
and then
lines,
Rebecca.
say somebody works at the, what if somebody works at the fire department, gets one of these loans, and then a year later moves to Virginia? You know, then, you know, is there any time, would there be any time that they'd have to be employed without paying it back?
So the way that these are structured, it didn't tie it to employment, but it did tie it on sale, potential sale of the home. So if they move out within, I think I put it 3 years.
3 years?
Then, yep,
Okay.
that's the timeframe.
Rebecca and then Bill Chang.
Yeah, going back to the eligibility must be employed by. One of the thoughts that I had, we've got an awful lot of childcare people who, let's face it, they don't get paid what they're worth. And they struggle mightily to make ends meet a lot of times. I would like to see them listed on this as well. I would specifically like to see them employed here in DeForest, obviously. But I'm trying to think in terms of some of these, because that's a much needed industry and we really need to have quality childcare people here.
So what if they were residents of DeForest but worked in Windsor? Would that, as in childcare?
Oh, yeah, I think that's a good point. Yes. Yeah, I
So-
think they need to be obviously a resident here, but in the childcare industry, either here in DeForest or Windsor, because that's helping people in our community.
So obviously there's a need for that those people are employed in that too. I think the distinction between public service was more on the public entity side of things. And then I would hope that potentially the incomes that our childcare workers might be earning would help them qualify for that second program, which would be more of the down payment assistance and home improvement and tied to some of the income constraints with that. But that's kind of where I think that.
So then they would fall into that second one.
Sure, yep, they would.
Okay, as long
theoretically,
as,
they would
as
be
long as we
eligible for
had
that.
it, something there to help folks like them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because they get left out a lot.
Okay. Bill Chang.
So Alex and I can discuss this more, but one way to provide some flexibility here is just to prioritize the employers listed here. And then as a caveat to catch all other employees, local and public service employees, kind of on basis or on case by case as you review. Because Jim's right, we have people that live in the community or want to live in the community that may work for other levels of government, which, you know, is important too here. And then again, defining what public service is. Is it a service provided by government or is it a public benefiting service?
Okay. Other things. Alex, other questions? I see you getting ready, Al.
I just wanted to bring us back to the discussion about the interest rate. And I don't have a position or a recommendation on the base interest rate, but in terms of a default interest rate, I understand the conversation about, well, you know, if people can't afford to pay $500, they can't afford to pay $550. But as the resident hired cynic. I'm thinking of the people not who can't make the payment, but who don't make the payment. If you have no interest accruing on a loan, there's no incentive to pay at all. Somebody's got a $500 payment due and they have a choice of either paying you or going out and putting it down toward a jet ski. They're going to put it on the jet ski and say, well, I'll pay that next month or in 2 months or in 6 months. So my recommendation would be to consider whatever base interest rate you want. It could be 0, but on a default that there would be an interest rate that has some teeth to it, but probably also have a provision that can be waived. So if somebody can convince you that they actually couldn't make the payment, then you could waive the interest. But if they can't do that, if it was a decision on their part just not to make the payment, then they should at least pay some interest. Because what's going to happen on a default is you're going to turn to me and say, go get the money. And I'll say, okay, but it's going to cost you. So there will be some cost in collecting the bad debts.
Good points. Good points.
Everybody needs a cynic.
Okay. That's worth considering. Yeah. And maybe it's not interest, maybe it's a penalty, like when people miss their rent, they have to pay an extra $25 or $50 by a certain date. But whatever we do with something like that, it should be very clear in the contract. Were you trying to say something?
I personally lean towards like a penalty or a fee for being late, because then you can actually sort of still say it's still 0%. You just have to pay the penalty, so.
All right. Well, good work, Alex.
If there's nothing else, we'll hopefully bring back a pretty close to final version next time.
Okay. We will continue with our agenda then. And I would ask Bill if he had an administrative update.
Yes, I have a few here. So I was part of a League of Wisconsin Municipalities meeting, roundtable they hold every month. And wanted to just to relay that there is a roundtable in Beaver Dam. They're doing these traveling roundtables throughout the state. The one in Beaver Dam is on February 13th from 4 to 7. It'll be an education session on Robert's Rules, a dinner, and then a roundtable on current events. And we do have in the budget, funding for you folks, the village board, to attend some of these educational roundtables. So if you are interested in that, let me know. And then the other update is that they anticipate that municipalities will get a bit of pressure this year to update zoning codes on affordable housing. Part of this is because there was a pot of money put out there for grants for affordable housing, and developers aren't able to apply or achieve those parameters because of strict guidelines. And so that's something to keep watch on. Jane, Colleen, and I were part of the fire district meeting. They are going through the interview process for the design phase 1 and phase 2 of Fire Station 2. Interviews are next Wednesday, so if you have questions that you would like me to pass on, please let me know and I can pass that on to the Fire and EMS District Board. If you could get me those questions by Thursday, I'd appreciate it. Once a designer or an architect is chosen, they'll go through phase 1, which is a preliminary design, programming needs, and estimation of costs. Then, come back to the various, to the Forest Village Board with a recommendation to potentially move on to phase two. The Fire EMS District Board will also then make a recommendation to move forward. And Windsor will then at that point move forward to phase two. Now, it's important before moving on to phase two, that we're able to negotiate through a potential cost share agreement for Fire Station 2. That movement from phase one to phase two is anticipated to happen in the summer, so June, July of 2025. Right now, we are negotiating an amendment or a revised intergovernmental agreement for fire and EMS services. Hopefully this will then extend the service agreement out significantly so that the investment into Fire Station 2 can be solidified. And lastly, DCCVA is holding a virtual roundtable at 12 p.m. on January 29th. They will be talking about municipal referendums, particularly operational referendums. And so that for those that are interested in municipal financing and why, and the experiences of the recent municipalities going through referendum, that would be a good session to attend. Well, please let me know if you're interested in that, and then we can get you signed up. Thank you.
Is that one of their noon programs?
So the DCCVA does monthly roundtables on hot subjects. So this time around, it's municipal referendum. We'll have guests from communities like Monona, Oregon, Madison, and others that have recently gone through referendum to talk about them.
I just meant time.
Time, 12 p.m. to 1. Sorry.
Noon program, yeah, okay. Yeah, Alex? Yeah, okay.
Just to comment on the piece about affordable housing. So my understanding is to qualify for those funding programs, you had to have certain regulatory updates within a period of time. And I think we've already made those updates. So I think we're in good shape.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bill. Carol? Okay. Police Department, Chief Olson?
Yeah, just a couple of things. We've filled our last staff position, Zach.
Just a minute. We can't hear you.
Okay.
Try it now.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things quick. We filled our last staff position. Our last officer started the academy a week ago on Monday. So come May, he will graduate and will be up to full street staff. So that's a good thing. Over the last weekend, we hosted our sixth, can't believe it that many already, our sixth annual, it's called Winter Wonderland. It's a program that we host at the police department for families with kids with special needs and intellectual disabilities. The really design is to increase that relationship between law enforcement and that part of our population, that critically important part of our population, so that should something bad happen, hopefully there's a good relationship built on trust that we can help each other kind of solve the problem. So it was a really good turnout, highest number we've ever had RSVP. We had 110 people RSVP. Not quite everybody made it, but we had a very, very good turnout. We get a lot of great support from our high school. The clubs come and help run some of the stations kind of thing. So it was a really good thing. The paper was there and did a nice story that'll come out in the paper this week. So that's it I have for this week.
Thank you, Chief. All right, Public Services Update, Mr. Blau.
We ordered the new desks for in here. They'll be here probably and installed by April. So either your there's no change, right? So the board meeting, either the first one in April or the last one in April, we'll have the new desks in. Sunfish Pond is ready for ice skating. We've actually had enough coldness that you can ice skate at Sunfish Pond. That being said, we could use some snow and some reasons to salt. I know a lot of people are like, boo, we don't need that, but we certainly could use that. Our bidding has begun on our projects that we've had for this year, specifically the streets maintenance projects, chip sealing and crack filling. Other projects, things will be coming online for bids here soon. And then we've been successfully implementing our wildlife management plan, and there's thus far been only one that tested positive. All the rest have been negative, so we're doing well there. So they're all being claimed.
How many?
50 thus far.
Can you remind me of what we're what we're shooting for?
Oh, bum, bum.
Sorry, I didn't really mean that pun.
Hey, Brown. They, no, we have, the DNR has authorized us for 150.
Okay.
But they certainly have said we could do more than that. I don't know that we'll get to that.
How much longer are they going to be doing that?
We can probably, get through March, and that'd be the end of it.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Alex, do you have a community development update? All right, administrative services. Brandy, do you have anything from Callie? Okay. Recreation and community enrichment.
Yeah, so we're working on finalizing the spring and summer guide. It's going to be released February 20th. So this covers programs from March through August. So it's definitely our largest guide of the year that we release. And so far it's coming together very nicely. The DeForest Dragon Arts registrations are still going great. We've received over 90 accepted applications so far. When kind of looking back, it looks like we're right about at the same level that the group was from last year, maybe a few more. So the early bird registration is over now, and we're looking to still get some more. And then just kind of wanted to share a friendly reminder. So we had our programs canceled today. So when the school district cancels school, we cancel our programs based off of their cancellation. So just wanted to remind people of that.
All right, thank you. All right, there is no closed session. So unless there's any other business to come before this committee, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 5:52. We will reconvene with our regular village board to order Tuesday, January 21st at 6 p.m. I would ask Brandy to note roll call, and I would ask Jan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Announcements. The village board will convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.85 1E of the Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Tonight, negotiating the terms of transfer of public lands to Covered Bridge Holdings and considering a tax increment financing request from Madtown BMX, and section 19.851G of the Wisconsin statutes for purposes of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. A claim against the Village of DeForest from Steve Norman. Consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. As we move into our regular agenda, I would like to move item 8.1 to follow public appearances so that we can bring together what most people are here to appear about and the item. And
I'll make that motion to move 8.1 behind 6.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. I think what we will do then is begin with our public appearances. People, first of all, let me say, many of you braved the cold to get here, and we appreciate that. It is cold out there, and we want to hear from all of you. So I do appreciate it. There are some people online. We'll try to make sure that we are able to see them and give them an opportunity to speak as well. If anyone wishes to speak and still hasn't filled out a form or let us know, I would ask if you're online, if you could put your hand up, your yellow hand that you can put up in Zoom. And if there is anyone in the audience here who hasn't registered yet, there are forms out on the table if you would fill them out and get them to a staff person. All right. With that, I would move to invite our first speakers up. Now, remember, when you appear, we only have 3 minutes. Everyone gets 3 minutes. It's frustrating, but that's what it is. Because otherwise it becomes a very difficult process for everyone. So we appreciate your recognizing it. We'll run a timer, not to intimidate anyone, but just to let you know what time is you have. And I would ask when you come up to speak, you come to the table, there's a microphone and you press the button. When it turns green, it's on, and it has to be on in order for us to record your statement. So we ask you do that. And then even though I call your name, you need to repeat your name and your address for the record. So that's kind of the process. We're a friendly bunch though, so we invite you to come and join us. The first name that I wanted to call was Ann Alexander. Is there anyone here or is she online?
If she's online, we'll ask her to raise her hand so then that way we can unmute from our end.
Okay. Ann Alexander, are you online? Okay. Well, Ann wanted to speak. We will move on. I can come back and check one more time. And we'll move on to Janelle Wolf.
Hi, my name is Janelle Wolf. I live at 917 Apple Blossom Drive in DeForest. I am a resident of DeForest for over 13 years and a mother of 4 young children in the DeForest residence. I find it very concerning that the topic of fluoride being removed from the water system has been brought to the board, but it hasn't been brought to the public forum. There has been no social media postings about it. There was a public safety meeting in December that only had about 7 attendees when I counted on the meeting minutes that were forwarded to me. There was no mailings sent to us. We got mailings for enrolling into the water utilities electronic billing, even though we were already enrolled. We've gotten mailings on the village library and getting our opinion on things. We've gotten emails mailings on the Fireman's Park and our opinion on what to do with the Fireman's Park, but there was nothing about fluoride being removed from our water system. And that's very disconcerting as a parent and as a resident that pays water utilities and property taxes that we weren't notified. And I would like to see the board push this motive off and do a public forum so that more residents of the over 11,000 DeForest residents can make their opinions known so that the board can make a better decision based on what all the residents want and all the families in Wisconsin DeForest want.
Thank you, Janelle. All right, we have Mike. I'm just having problems with the handwriting. Is it Cardanoga? Yeah, that could be it. Sorry.
Okay, I can go.
You can go.
Good evening. My name is Mike Castano. I just moved to DeForest this summer with my wife. I live at 7797 Blue Stem Trail. I don't know, I haven't researched the fluoride issue that much. I'm most interested in how the board came to the decision, like what data points were used specifically, what research was used to back that up. I mean, I know there's some Western European countries, I think, that don't have fluoride in there, so I don't know if any studies were there, but I'm just interested to what logical thought process was utilized there. And then I do agree with the previous speaker that there should be transparency of process. And then if possible, could there be a public vote on that? I mean, for a full democratic process here, and then just whatever the majority wants is, in my opinion, is what should be done. And that's really, I guess, all I wanted to say on it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We have Brenda Stoudenmeyer.
Good evening, members of the DeForest Village Board and community. You probably remember me. I'm Brenda Stoudenmeyer, 1278 Doty Street, Green Bay. The Wisconsin mom, water industry employee and plaintiff in the landmark federal case against the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency regarding the dangers of water fluoridation. As many of you know, after 7 years of rigorous litigation and scientific review, Judge Edward Chen concluded in September that water fluoridation at the current level of 0.7 milligrams per liter poses an unreasonable risk to the developing brain. This judgment, supported by decades of independent scientific research, exposes a deeply concerning truth. Fluoride, a substance long assumed to be safe, is harming our children. The science is clear and compelling. Studies, including those funded by the US government, have repeatedly shown that fluoride exposure during pregnancy and early childhood is linked to lower IQs, ADHD-like symptoms, and other neurological impairments. Children, especially in their most critical stages of development, are highly vulnerable. As parents and community members, we have a responsibility to protect their future. If we know fluoride levels double what are in our water supply is harmful, then we need a safety factor of 10 to protect those most vulnerable. Under EPA standards, fluoride levels would need to be reduced to 0.15 milligrams per liter or lower to protect children's developing brains. The claim that fluoridation strengthens teeth systemically by drinking water is false. The CDC and dental research confirm that fluoride's primary benefit is topical on the surface of teeth. Swallowing fluoride is unnecessary and it exposes the body to risks, including neurotoxicity, dental fluorosis, achy joints, and thyroid dysfunction. The claims of cost savings are speculative and outdated. New studies such as the Cochrane Review and the Lotus and Catfish studies demonstrate that modern fluoridation reduces tooth decay by only 3% or less, not the exaggerated 25% figure often cited. These minimal benefits do not outweigh the significant health risks. Continuing to fluoridate our water despite the overwhelming evidence would be irresponsible. We cannot justify exposing our families to a chemical that has been ruled an unreasonable risk. Moreover, there are safer, targeted ways to prevent tooth decay without forcing systemic exposure to fluoride through drinking water. I urge the DeForest community to take immediate steps to end fluoridation. Let's stand on the side of science, public health, and precaution. Let's be proactive and protect the most vulnerable members of our community, our children. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Brenda. All right, Sheila Howe.
Hi, my name is Sheila Howe. I live at 324 Market Street in DeForest. And I want to thank you very much for bringing up this issue towards the board. I really think it's a very important issue as we have found out this new science and the new evidence that's out here. Per Judd Blau's presentation that he did, what we're putting in our water system is not just fluoride, it's hydrofluoric acid, and it contains poison. It has lead in it, heavy metals, phosphates, iron, iodide, and arsenic. These are all known poisons. This is a scientific fact, not conspiracy theory. So we're not talking about the fluoride you get at the dentist, even though that too has been shown and proven now to not be healthy. So these all contribute to the mental health crisis that we have today. And it's a very serious crisis in our country. And I think that a vote to keep this process going is knowingly poisoning the citizens of the community. So I think it's really important that we just end it completely. And if people want more fluoride, then it's available through your toothpaste, you can buy fluoride water. But we should have the choice to be able to drink water that's just water. And right now we don't have that. So as somebody who has firsthand experience with children who have cognitive, mental, neurotypical disorders, I also suffer from severe migraine headaches. I implore you to do the right thing and remove it from the water system. Thank you.
I see Chris McDonald has his hands up and wishes to speak. He's online. Chris, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. Let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, board. My name is Chris McDonald. I live at 4000 Longfellow Court in DeForest, Wisconsin, which is the village of Windsor. I've appeared before this board once already, and I'd like to appear again and just register my opposition to the board making any decisions tonight on the discontinuation of the use of fluoride. I live in this community. I'm a parent of 2 young kids who attend the Forest Area School District who stand to be impacted by whatever decision is made here tonight. And I'm frankly opposed to it. I look at some of the information that's gathered in the agenda packets, and it's clear that there's really one side of this issue being presented to the board. Some of the PowerPoints I look at, I know the PSC asked questions about what does Europe do? Europe does not fluoridate their water, but not said in that presentation is that a lot of European countries have water and table salt, so it's more regularly available to citizens. I look at the adequate intake of fluoride quoted, but not the maximum intake, which again is 10 times the limit. So it feels like there's a very one-sided case being presented to the board, and that's really disappointing. I echo the citizens' comments that it doesn't seem like there's been a significant effort to really gather the opinions of your constituents on the village board, and that's really concerning as a parent and a constituent. Everybody that I talked to that stands to be impacted by this issue has made it clear that they're not in favor of it. But I would also echo, it would be nice to see the board make an effort to reach out to your constituents, gather some more information, maybe a public listening session or social media campaign, but make an effort to get the opinions of your constituents. I'm not interested in what anti-fluoride activists from outside of our community in Green Bay have to say. I want to know what the constituents in DeForest have to say. And so I implore you to, serve the citizens that elected you and get their opinions before you make any decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. With that, we will move to another Chris Kramer. Yep. And turn the mic on if you would. Hey.
Oh, good. Okay. Hi, I'm Chris Kramer. I'm a dentist in Madison, Wisconsin. And I've been
Can you, for the record, give us your address?
Sure. 4809 Sherwood Road in Madison.
All right. Thank you.
So I just want to say it feels like that the pendulum is swinging towards more and more communities taking fluoride out of their water. So I mean, that may be a given. I'm not here for or against that. But when I see that that's what more and more communities are doing, my concern is, well, okay, so how are you dealing with the supposed studies show increase of 25% in tooth decay risk? Okay. So assuming if DeForest does take the fluoride out of their water, the 25%, there could be potentially a 25% increase in tooth decay. So it's a no-brainer for a lot of people in dentistry to say, hey, just keep it in there, and it's doing that. It's reducing decay by 25%, and it's probably going to get to some of the most underserved folks. So I get that side. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me, okay? And we care about the most vulnerable and the underserved. So, but they're going to get a small benefit. Just remember the number 25%. So instead of getting 8 cavities, they might only get 6. Okay, still a big problem there. Now, to me, that's not good enough. 25% is not good enough, and it's unacceptable because dentists know there's a better way to prevent and halt tooth decay with a better medicine called SDF. It's applied topically only twice each year with no systemic uptake. There's no study that's been shown any systemic uptake of fluoride with SDF. It's silver diamine fluoride. It's a topical application. You combine that with a sealant and you will have 96% reduction in tooth decay risk. If you take the fluoride out of the water, what can you do with the money saved to have a PR campaign or set up satellite clinics or gymnasiums and deliver this care? The American Dental Association recommends and prioritizes this kind of care, okay? Meaning use the SDF and use the glass ionomer sealants. And it's paid for fully by the state. For anybody with state aid, the state of Wisconsin, wonderful, will take care of those expenses. And it can be delivered to kids wherever they're at. There's nothing complicated about delivering this care. You can do it in the schools. Pop-up clinics can deliver it to everyone else. And I've been doing this all over the state for 5 years. And I've been reaching the underserved and non-dental clinics. And it's a simple, non-invasive, no-drill kind of care. If DeForest wants the best solution that will satisfy both sides and make history with this brilliant, novel approach, I will help you make this happen. I will work with you to set this up in your town, and then you can, in good conscience, remove the fluoride from your water supply. In time, as more and more cities wrestle with this controversy, they will take a strong look at the DeForest plan, for it really is the only plan that, to me, makes sense and satisfies both parties.
Chris, your time is up.
So thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions if anybody has them later on, but thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. All right. Is there anyone online that wishes to speak on the fluoride issue? Okay, we got lots of people online, but no one's wanting to speak that I can see. So we will then move to Lois. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to get through the fluoride issue. So do you want to now read the other items, Brandy?
Yes. I only get 30 seconds to read, so we will, after the name. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah. All right. So these are records that were submitted to the village, people that weren't able to attend the meeting, but they wanted their words put into the village record, read to the village.
And for those of you on the board that don't have copies of everything yet, we will continue to send you copies of everything that we get.
That is correct. Yes. All right, so Nancy O'Brien, 509 Valley Drive, DeForest, Wisconsin. Removing fluoride from the village water. I'm upset to hear that the DeForest Village is considering removing fluoride from its water. I believe fluoride in the water offers many health benefits to the residents of our village. I'm concerned that no listening sessions or information was dispersed to the village residents before voting on this monumental matter. Please reconsider and listen to the voices of your village residents before taking fluoride out of your drinking water. Sorry, I need to keep myself organized. There's lots of paper. All right, next, Dr. Amy Anderson. There is no address provided. I just wanted to get a quick email out before the meeting tonight. I'm guessing you will be tabling a vote on this since it's controversial to some. I have researched and made choices about this for years. There have been long-term longitudinal studies, that's a doctor, comparing fluorinated versus unfluorinated areas. Essentially, my concern is there is no real evidence to show that it helps and some evidence to show that it can do harm. Using the precautionary principle. That's it. Time is up. All right. Lisa Feldman, 701 West Lexington Parkway in DeForest. I would like to share my statement as to why fluoride should be removed from our public water system. I would like to request to have it read out loud. Oh, you know what? We need this. Yeah. Sorry, there was a cover email to the actual letters, so my apologies. Hazardous, corrosive, and toxic substance that requires special handling and safety precautions. An industrial waste, a byproduct of aluminum fertilizer. Besides putting our village employees in harm's way, you are also harming the public without their knowledge of the poison that is going into their body. It is under the guise of the dental health, but plain and simple, it's poison. The last time we were here visiting this subject, our village employees shared a slide of what's the hydrofluorosilicic acid. Ooh, here. Okay, that was the 30 seconds. I will provide all copies of all of this stuff to everybody once we have those made. We do also have a pile of people that registered in opposition and some in support. I have 24 registrations of people registering, but again, not wanting to speak, who oppose the resolution, and 5 that supported the resolution in addition to everything that was read. Those are all the records I believe that we have. So I think we're done. Oh, I guess there's another hand raised on the
Jennifer's iPhone, but there's also, just to add to that, the emails are coming in as we're meeting, and we've also heard tonight from Niels Hansen, Dawn Cimaroli, and Nancy O'Brien, and I will send all of these to you all. Or more appropriately, Brandy will. So you get them in a packet, and they're not just coming individually. There was a hand up and it said Jennifer's iPhone, but it looked to be a male. So are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. I had a very difficult time getting on. This is Dr. Johnny Johnson. I am in Chiefland, Florida. And I've spoken with you before about this issue on fluoridation. And I want to commiserate because this is a situation that you all are put in to make a decision on something that should be made at a much higher level, that it's made under the state level or federal level of health, as far as our overall bodily health, which is improved by oral health. We know that we have heart issues. We have valves being destroyed in your brain. You can get a stroke from an abscessed tooth. People get septic from an abscessed tooth. People get neck infections from an abscessed tooth, and frankly, die from an abscessed tooth. This is a whole body issue. There are no studies that have been done on human beings that have been done, like long-term ones that have been done in New Zealand, to show that there's no effect of fluoridated water on IQ. That one was a 35-year study of the same people over 35 years having fluoridated water or not. And those that were in a fluoridated community at age 38 plus at very young ages had IQ tests, and those that were non-fluoridated had not had IQ tests at young ages, and then again at age 38. There were no differences. The ones that you're hearing about that are out right now are very low quality studies and have been deemed so by the gold standard Cochrane Group and others around the world. So please make a decision based upon the experts that support fluoridation, that have looked at these research, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, the World Health Organization, the Department of Defense, American Water Works Association, American Medical Association. I'm not even mentioning Dental Association. Let's talk about the ones that are supporting it and looking at this data. Frankly, dentists will make more money if you take it out, if you stop fluoridation, but this is a disease. It is the most common chronic disease of children and adults in the US and around the world. It's more common than obesity and diabetes, and it's infectious and transmissible. Most people don't realize that. And to be honest, I didn't realize it until I got into dentistry, and I have a mouthful of problems and abscessed teeth when I was younger. This is an issue that really makes a difference for all of us, not just in how we live our quality of life, adults, elderly folks, and I am one that's now going to be 69. I have a bad cold. Those that have physical disabilities that can't brush their teeth well, people with bad arthritis, those in living in nursing homes. The only dental care some of these folks will ever get at that point is fluoridated water. And in God's honest truth, it does not cause a single health issue. We've had it for almost 80 years, but we discovered it in 1901. Nobody dies. Nobody gets hurt by fluoridated water. I wouldn't be having my hand on a Bible or a minister if I were lying to you. Please keep it in your water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I get you to state your name and address for the record?
I apologize. I got one of these nasty colds. It's Dr. Johnny Johnson, and my address is P.O. Box 2450, and the city is Chiefland, Chiefland, Florida 32644.
Thank you.
Thank you. We
Thank you so
appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you letting me speak. Thank you.
All right. Was there anybody else wishing to speak? Otherwise, we will have Lois Lehman give us a little bit of relief with a different item. Come on forward. You want to state your name and address for the
Yes.
record?
Lois Lehman, 212 Harvard Drive, DeForest, 20 years. Dear Village of DeForest trustees, I reported shots at 8:45 a.m. Sunday, December 29th, 2024, and the DeForest Police Department wrote it up. This is ongoing since an incident of a dog bitten by a coyote last spring. Without details of the date and cause of the bite, I do know of the general incident that it occurred during the possible birth of coyote pups and the caring of the pups. Therefore, the coyote acting in defense of their survival. The common sense response is to give them space or leave the area, respecting them, and have dogs leashed during spring birthing. I am not questioning here if the dog was leashed and following the leash law. If this is the first incident of a pet wildlife conflict, the precedent is a guide for future planning. And what I do question is, one, are individuals shooting wildlife due to a perceived threat of one's safety? In most cases, wild animals, including the coyote, avoid human presence. Number two, are individuals shooting wildlife due to nuisance? Farmers may be unaware of the coyote and fox as neighbors or allies, pardon me for my voice, who are looking for a meal while helping them reduce the rodent population. Or number three, are individuals shooting wildlife for the fun or rewards that are not protected by laws, such as coyotes. I and many other residents in DeForest oppose this unethical behavior. I see the posts, and you may also. There are principles that go back in history that govern hunter behavior, known as the North American model of wildlife conservation. In other words, what is the purpose of taking an animal? Is it for the pelt? We don't eat coyotes. I respectfully ask you, with the authority invested in your position, to announce to DeForest residents the upcoming spring birthing of the coyote to prevent a future dog-coyote conflict.
Lois, your time is up.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for
I will
listening.
deliver copies to all of the trustees.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you.
We will read your copies. All right. If there's no one else that wishes to appear, we will move along. Before we take up item 8.1, I want to let folks know that I am going to introduce a motion to postpone this matter until we can have some listening sessions led by the board. I want everyone involved. I know all of our board members have at one time or another said, you know, we need to hear on these issues from our residents. And I will say that in the last few days, I've heard from 150 people. And the majority of them are not wanting us to remove, but then there's another group that we've heard from over the months that want to remove it. And I think we need to find a way to make sure that we hear from people who want to express their opinion, but that we also find ways to educate the whole board so we're operating with a full body of knowledge and not just picking and choosing what we're reading individually. So we're going to work, and I'm going to talk with the board and recommend that we work together to figure out who to hear from and to hold forums. And I would recommend in this motion that we do them at a couple of different times. So if people can't come at one time, they can come at another time. So we make sure that everyone has an opportunity to come and interact with us. I'm calling them listening sessions because I think they're a little looser in structure. I look at Al when I say that, and we'll be able to interact with people. And I know that board members get frustrated when they can't ask questions. So before we move forward any further, I would like to make a motion to postpone item 8.1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Rebecca?
Do we want to postpone to a date certain?
The only reason I didn't put a date certain on it, and I appreciate that question, is that we haven't figured out when to do the listening sessions. And it's a little wily to get everyone's schedule. But I think as soon as we have our listening sessions, then we bring it back.
I just don't want it to drop through the cracks.
No, I assure you that it won't drop through the cracks. Last night at midnight, when I was still getting emails, I kind of wish that it might, but here we are. And I think it's important. We're dealing with the health of our residents. So we need to be serious. Excuse me, Jim, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So my thought is that this was originally brought to the board November 19th. We've had multiple meetings since then. At the public service, I think that meeting was probably 2 hours and provided a counterpoint to an individual that talked here or a meeting that happened at the village board for probably about an hour or so. So I feel that we've gained a lot of knowledge as the board members. I've heard from many individuals. I did not keep up with the emails today, but I'll say flourish emails, but from the some that I skimmed, I didn't necessarily see any other opinions that I haven't heard already, so I'm not exactly sure. A listening session, although beneficial, I don't think is necessarily going to change my opinion based on what I've seen today. So I caution going forward with the listening session because I don't really see the purpose in it. I present it more as an informational session of why this may happen. I guess I can't say that it would because I don't know what the vote would be, but I for one won't be voting for postponing.
Tashidra.
While we may have started this on November 19th, and there may have been a public service meeting, I am all in for having a listening session. One, I believe that as a village board, it is our responsibility and our due diligence to listen to the voice of the community. And decisions are final, and we can go back and revisit decisions and make amendments and different things of that nature. One of the reasons I wanted to be a trustee is because I wanted to be the voice of the people. And it has been a resounding voice these last couple days that people have not felt like they've had the opportunity to be heard. Now, whether or not that's going to change people's minds, I do believe that it is our responsibility to give individuals the opportunity to be heard. That is a human thing. That's what every human wants, is the opportunity to be heard, to let their voice be known, their feelings, their desires. And I think that the listening sessions can be twofold. It could be an opportunity for the community to say, hey, I didn't know this. I want an opportunity to speak. I want more information. There were a couple individuals that said, I didn't know what's going on. I just want to know, how is the board making their decisions? What information are you getting? And it's an opportunity for the board to interact with the community, once again, to provide that transparency that we're not trying to make decisions behind closed doors and, shock and awe over here. We're not trying to do that. We are a family, and you have you have voted us in this position to speak when you can't. Everybody's busy. And so I would hope that the listening sessions would give all of us an opportunity to speak. This is a very important matter. Fluoride or not fluoride, will it hurt, will it won't hurt? And so whether it changes the decision of what people are gonna vote, I don't know. But it will give each person an opportunity to circle the wagons to say, hey, let's come together as a community, because that's what we are. At the end of the day, DeForest is a family, and every family member should have an opportunity to say, I want my voice to matter. And so I am all for tabling this, and whether we make a decision this week, next week, bottom line is we should at least give a little bit more time for individuals. We've got a copious amount of emails, and I haven't even read them yet. So I would love to read. If people take the time to email us, I want to know what they've said. And I don't want to vote tonight and then go read their emails later, because that is wrong. So I would like to have a little bit more time to read those emails, to say, hey, you voted me in. I took the time to read your emails. I heard what you said. I'm listening, and you matter. What you put on your paper, what you come to these meetings, you matter to me. And so I would hope that we could just table this just a little bit longer so that I could hear from as many people as possible.
Thank you, Tashidra. Colleen?
I am going to vote in favor of postponing this issue. I don't know if it's going to change anyone's mind or anyone's vote. However, there has been such a reaction from the community that I think they deserve to be heard. I want to hear what they have to say. I got and responded to 16 emails this morning. I assure you, we're not hiding anything. We're not trying to do anything behind anybody's back. Maybe we could have handled it better with social media notifications. Not my job to do that. However, I think it's a good idea to hear from everybody that wants to be heard.
Thank you. Jim?
I do think it's important to hear everybody. I don't want to sound like I'm not, but I also feel that there was been 4 or 5 meetings that people could have came to talk to. And I don't want to set a precedence that all it takes is a flourish of emails to postpone something. And I have talked to a number of individuals out there in the public that aren't necessarily coming to these meetings. So I feel, again, educated, and I'm going to vote against the postponement. But thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Rebecca?
Button didn't push. I have mixed feelings about postponing this. This has been we have been discussing this now for several months. It's been out in the public. I know not everybody has necessarily been paying attention to that. Could we have done better? Absolutely. I'm sure we could have. But at the same time, I think I do agree with what everybody is saying here, actually. It's hard sitting on a fence sometimes. I agree with what Jim is saying in that we've had a lot of discussions. We've had the science from both sides of the argument. Very good science from both sides, to be honest. Some more compelling than others. I think it has, I think that information is out there for everybody to see and has been for some time. And I'm not necessarily opposed to having a listening session, but I don't think it's going to change my mind. I'm very concerned about the health of our kids and their developing brains and their developing bodies. And I think we need to take all of the science into consideration and really make a decision about this, because one family may want one thing and another family may want a different thing. Well, you can't have it both ways. You've got to decide one way or the other. And that's where the board comes in. And we sometimes have to make that hard decision. So I don't know where I'm at as far as the listening session, I would like to let everybody be heard, but at the same time, we've been listening and giving opportunities for the past 2 months, at least, 2.5 months now. So anyway, that's just where I'm at.
I think the other part of this is, as a board, we know how to look on the website to find out what's going on. We know how to get communication to the staff. I don't think the whole community does. And I think that when there were news reports of this, it alerted a number of people. I think others found out through dental offices. Others have recently found out, but didn't know how to get the information to us. So when we're dealing with the health of people's children and the health of seniors and other individuals in our community, I think unlike other issues, we have to go the extra mile to hear from people. So I feel pretty strongly that we should take the time to do it, and hope that you all will consider it. Judd, you had your hand up.
Just as the reason I brought this forward at the time was because we need to replace the pumps that put the fluoride into the water. Those pumps are aging, they're failing potentially. And if they should fail, I don't know what to do at that point as a policy, because I won't have an answer, right? Which is why I brought this in November, because we have that and it's now been 3 months. So you can choose to have listening sessions or not. That's great. I ask you to do it in a relatively quick manner. The other scenario is we don't fluoridate water at well 6, which covers all of the southern portion of DeForest. So folks in Bear Tree Parkway don't get fluoride in their water. People in Savannah Brooks don't have fluoride in their water. Several of those people emailed today suggesting that they needed to keep fluoride in their water. They don't have fluoride in their water. So if we're going to, I'm going to ask this board for a policy. Do we want to introduce fluoride into well 6 then? And I can go ahead and get bids and what that cost will be. It'll be significantly higher to add a well house fluoridation component to that well. But
Thank you, Judd. And we'll deal with that when we make a decision on fluoride. I don't think this decision is going to be dependent on the cost of a pump. I think it's going to be dependent on other things. So
understood.
Thank you.
My question though is, if those pumps die tomorrow, do you want me to replace them or do I not? So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. It's 3 months. I'm just trying to have an idea of what I should do as the Director of Public Services, who's got to be a steward of all of our taxpayers' dollars. So.
Thank you. Jim.
I just want to remind people that when this came to the village board on November 19th, we decided to send it back to committee. We didn't use the term listening session, but that was in fact what we were doing, is sending it back for more information. So we're sort of doubling that effort by if this motion passes.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Excuse me, sorry. One other suggestion would be to have a vote tonight, possibly, I don't know, temporarily to suspend the fluoride while we have the listening sessions. And then that would relieve the stress on the pumps, while at the same time potentially protecting the community from potential harm that we don't know for sure. I mean, we have some evidence that it could be. And then continuing with these listening sessions. And if it's decided at that point in time to start it up again, then we can do that and then do the bids and get things moving. I mean, it's not going to hurt to have that suspended for a little while. Only part of the village is even getting the fluoride anyway.
All right, let's deal with the other issue. I don't know if that's all pretty complicated. Tashidra?
So we live in the era of technology. We have access to email, and social media. And I do not want to take away from the individuals that do not use electronics, because we do have a number of individuals that do not utilize that. So I would never want to take away the voice. And so to honor the fact that we should open up the opportunity for people to have their voices be heard. And I do understand that, yes, this came to us on November 19th, and we did say listening sessions. But I do want to make note that we probably didn't market this the way that we market all the other things that we do in the village. Because I know I'm inundated with literature for a lot of different things that we do in the village, but I wasn't inundated with things about fluoride like I was in the last couple of days when it came to what we're talking about tonight, right? So I want to honor that. I also want to honor the fact that the whole village in its entirety doesn't get information disseminated, you know, the way that we think it does. And people don't respond until it hits home, right? Like, let's just be real. The information that we put out doesn't hit until it really hits, right? Until it affects your backyard, right? And that's what this topic is. It's hitting the backyard of everybody's backyard. And that's what we're hearing right now, is the outpour of, it's hit my backyard. And I understand the urgency of what Judd is talking about. This came to us in November. And so if something happens, we've got to make a decision, and now it impacts the community and the taxpayers of what we're going to do with this problem when it arises. So my question is there a way that we can expedite these listening sessions, right? We don't have to take a whole month. We don't have to take a whole year. We don't have to do that. There's Survey Monkeys, there's Facebook Live, there's so many different things that we can do now in the era of technology, where we can offer up an opportunity for individuals who really want to be heard. If you want to be heard, you're going to let yourself be heard. You're not going to take a day or 2 or 3 to get your voices out there, because how many emails did we get today alone, right? So this doesn't have to take forever. We can honestly put a timestamp to let your voices be heard by the end of next week. Actually, we can do it by the end of tomorrow. We can timestamp this. We can make a decision that if you want your voices to be heard on this topic, it can happen, and we can make a decision and vote on this by our next meeting. This doesn't have to take forever. All I'm saying is our community asked for an opportunity to be heard. We have the power to allow them to be heard. Let's honor that. And then let's make a decision exponentially. And quicken this pace. We don't have to take forever, and we don't have to debate this forever, because I don't want to be here all night either, right?
Thank you, Tashidra. All right, Rebecca had her hand up, then Bill, and then we're going to call for the vote.
I would agree with what you just said. If we can expedite this in a very timely manner, then I would be more in favor of voting in favor of a very brief postponement of this. I would not be in favor of voting for a postponement if it was going to be another month down the road, or even longer in some cases. If we can do this in a very quick way, then I would be in favor of this.
Okay. Well, I'm okay with quick. We'll send out a survey to all of you for dates tomorrow, should it pass. Bill?
I share the same thoughts as Trustee Witherspoon and Trustee Simpson. I can't see this going out another month, 2 months. We need to make a decision. Our Public Services Committee, we had people come forward twice. And at that meeting, it's more low-key than this. We had the experts on both sides come out. There's a plethora of information out there. One side accusing the other of low quality studies, high quality studies. the meetings were quite long. I did read all the emails today. There's a common theme there. It's almost, some were original, some seem to be cut and paste, to be honest. I really liked Lisa's handwritten. She didn't have hers fully read, but that just kind of says it all. Maybe we should have a listening session. Wanakee has a listening session every 3 months on a Saturday. Everybody comes in and their sidewalk has a crack in it or they're speeding down the street. Maybe we need that. How many would show up? But even if one shows up, it's important. But I will vote no to extend this unless there is a time limit. I'd like to see this by next meeting. Because we need to move on. If these, I don't like to replace stuff that in 3 weeks, you go out and buy a $4,000 pump that you might not need. I didn't realize that well 6, Bear Tree, Savannah gets water from well 6 and it's untreated. And some of these people that wrote to me and the rest of the board live down in Bear Tree. They think that they get fluoride and they don't. So they're actually not missing, or they're missing it, but they don't realize it. Almost like a placebo. So, but I will vote no unless there's a definite time limit.
Jane, I would like to make a motion that we table this until our next meeting. And in the interim, we have listening sessions for the community.
We already have a motion.
We have a motion. We just didn't have the by the next meeting. So would
Can I
you,
amend can I amend it to by the next meeting? I'm requesting a friendly.
okay.
That can be an amendment to the motion that's on the floor.
And I'm okay with that.
I second you, so I'm okay with myself.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, so we've amended it, the motion to include a timetable of trying to complete this by the next meeting. So with that, Bill?
We have hands over here and then I have a few clarifying questions.
Go ahead, Bill Chang first.
Just to clarifying, what's the next meeting? February 4th?
So the next meeting is February 4th. That would mean that any kind of listening session or information gathering would have to be done within 2 weeks here. Not including setup time for Engage DeForest.
And this be done?
We can give it our best effort. If you are going to have a live listening session, I do need to understand dates and times of that. And then potentially finding a venue that's large enough for the number of folks that may be interested in this subject.
That's doable.
We can try it.
Okay, Jane, did you agree to the amendment?
Yep.
She accepted her own amendment.
Yeah. Rebecca?
Piggybacking on what you were just saying, during that 2-week period, even if we're not able to get an actual venue, I would hope that during that time frame, people would be providing us their feedback. I mean, there's that too. We can do the survey. We can send that out, social media, via whatever format. I mean, if we can't get a physical,
I think we can work together.
I think we can work that out. But if there's the possibility that we can't, there are lots of avenues for people to get information, their feedback to us about this. I would prefer that they also go and listen to both of these sessions, the last village board meeting plus the last public service, because one has one side of the argument, the other one has the other side of the argument. And that's that's the science. Plus you've got all this other news information that's coming out almost daily about fluoride. And I mean, there's all kinds of information out there. I would hope that people would at least be proactive enough to send us their information.
Okay. Let's call for a vote on the postponement of this item. We've had a request for a date of the next meeting. I've accepted that. Jim, is it different information?
It's a different idea because I know I'm not going to be here. It'll be very difficult to call from where I'm going to be on February 4th. So I don't know how that plays into voting. So that's one comment that I have, but yeah, I can't count on Zoom. But, another idea, knowing the difficulties of the 2 weeks, the coordination of it, is if we do want to do the 2 meetings. And with that, I bring forward an idea as if we say stop the fluoridation as a temporary, as a more, I'm losing the term, but it's a trial run that would then actually notify people that say there's not fluoride in the water. And I'm a little bit curious myself, is it going to change the flavor and different things like that? I tend to think not, but I bring that as an idea that here, let's move it the 2 weeks, stop the fluoridation, and then people can be better informed through that process too.
I'm not real supportive of that. I think that we don't have the information to make that decision. And I think that it's more important for us to have the listening sessions, hear from people, and then move forward with whatever we're gonna do and make it real. That feels gamey to me. So not to be critical of your ideas, but I just can't go there. This is not an issue that I would make a decision on based on the cost of a pump or on some of the information we've gotten so far. I really want us to hear from our community. So with that, I would call for a vote on the motion to postpone and to hold listening sessions and to look for other ways to secure community input, at least through the next meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Rebecca, I didn't hear what you said. She said aye, so the ayes have it, motion carries. And we will work to schedule the listening sessions, get the word out, and also make sure that there's access to our website to, and a place, there's a section called Engage DeForest. And we will make sure that there's a way for you to all in the community to send your comments, send information, and also we will publish the dates of the listening sessions as soon as we can schedule them. Okay. So with that, we will move on our agenda. We have postponed 8.1, so we'll take up 7.1. And it's a presentation by Carolyn Schumacher and Julia Freshner. Yeah, sorry if I said your name wrong.
It's Julia Fechner. They're university students from the University Alliance that we're working with. So they're online remotely.
Right.
Hi, can you guys hear me at all?
It's not very loud. Let's see if we can make you louder.
Can you grant the max? You did? Okay, great. So these are the folks that took off on our sustainability efforts from where Heidi Putnam left off, and also brought in some additional new fun ideas and ways to go about sustainability in the village. So I would turn it over to Carolyn and or Julia to kind of go through their stuff.
I'm just gonna share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see it.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna get us started. So thank you so much for having us here tonight. We'll make this quick to be respectful of all of your time. And I guess I'll just start with introducing myself, and then Carolyn can introduce herself. So my name is Julia Fechner, as Judd introduced us. I am a junior at UW-Madison currently, and we were assigned to this project through the University Alliance Scholars Program to help the village sort of discover some current sustainability initiatives and maybe future goals and plans, and do a little bit of research on that.
Yeah, and I'm Carolyn. I'm also a student at UW. I'm a senior, and same thing as Julia. We worked on things together through this project. We have a couple of different deliverables, but Julia focused mainly on community engagement pieces, and I focused mainly on the report that's in the agenda.
All right, so we'll get started with just a little bit of an introduction. We sort of described this already, but basically, when this project was presented to the University Scholars Program, we applied separately, and we were sort of, assigned to this position. And the Village of DeForest is really committed to preserving the natural resources, especially a lot of emphasis on wetlands, along with Heidi Putnam's work. So sort of promoting that and continuing that, but then highlighting some current and hopefully future initiatives and practices to support environmental stewardship and sustainability within the village. So the final report we ended up compiling outlines a number of cost and labor effective actions the village can take, specifically in three main areas: energy, waste, and water. So I will describe a little bit of the community engagement that we went to sort of land upon those three action items. So back in October, Carolyn and I visited DeForest at the e-waste recycling event, and we were able to, with the help of Judd and Stacy at the village, hand out some survey slips to an Engage DeForest post that we created. This survey was basically to serve as a way to get feedback from village residents on what aspects of sustainability that they find really important to them. Going into this project, we knew that we wanted, the interests of the community members and what they cared about to really be at the forefront of our research, and make sure that we were aligning those interests with what we wanted to sort of include in our project. So with those survey responses, we got 57 responses and then 14 open comments, which we left open for people to, describe what their specific issues of interest were, or some feedback, some criticism. Those are all published still on the Engage DeForest page. But we had a few different items that, through discussions with Judd and Bill, that we sort of wanted to narrow down, see what was most important, and the top three being waste reduction, water and wetland preservation, and sustainable energy, looking more at efficiency and renewables. You can see those survey results for some of the other ones were habitat restoration, native plants, outdoor recreation, urban forestry, and community gardens. Not saying that those ones aren't important, but just maybe not as most present issues for the village as of right now. So through that, we sort of discovered that there was a little bit of a gap within education of the current sustainability initiatives. Some people didn't know what the village was already doing for a lot of these issues. So with the help of Stacy Harmon, we were able to develop this interactive sustainability map, which is published on the Engage DeForest site. If anybody wants to, there is a QR code there that you can scan that will take you to that page, and scrolling down to the bottom is where you can find that map. But this map is really a way for residents to find resources for those initiatives. So I just grabbed a screenshot here. One example is for water and wetland preservation. There is an amazing document on flood preparedness, and because the village is surrounded by these wetlands, just making sure residents are informed of what they can do in terms of flooding. Other options for initiatives were, the community gardens, or like we mentioned, the e-waste recycling event, or different ways that the village is currently looking at energy efficiency in their village buildings. But the map serves as an interactive way for people to learn more about things, get connected with people who have those same interests, and just sort of engage the community a little bit more. And so that was one thing that we ended up developing throughout this project, and I was really excited to see it come together. So I'll turn it over to Carolyn to sort of describe our report a little bit more.
Yeah, so the report basically involved meeting with members of the village staff. For me, that was mainly Judd Blau. And then doing our own research, using some of our existing and prior knowledge, especially since Julia and I both have roles in the Office of Sustainability at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And then meeting with potential partners and other people who can help the village out on their efforts. And so the three main topics that this report is organized into is sustainable energy, waste reduction, and water preservation, wetlands conservation. And so in terms of sustainable energy, we knew going into this that at least Judd Blau had done a bit of research into renewable energy options for the village, but we still wanted to look into them. We met with Alliant and a lot of other organizations who were more than willing to help us in exploring the best options for the village. And as we found, there are at this time, due to budget constraints and other reasons, no real strong renewable energy options for the village to take right this moment. But we did find that there are a lot more areas in which the village can work on making their energy use more efficient, both within like village operations and for residents and businesses. So one of the main organizations that we worked with on this was Focus on Energy, which is an organization entirely funded by the Wisconsin Utilities, whose main goal is to make people's energy use more efficient across the state of Wisconsin. And so they have all sorts of support and advising and services for all sorts of businesses, for municipalities, for schools, for residents. Some of the things that they do are energy audits, building optimization, and they can help with designing new facilities. We also knew that the village is looking at maybe some new facility planning as you guys are expanding and expanding. We met with one man in particular, Joe Kotwitz, who is their municipal energy advisor, so he can work directly with the village. And again, this service is entirely free. What's most attractive in this for residents and businesses as well is that they even offer free supplies or free home energy savings kits. I have one in my home right now. And so there are many ways through Focus that the village can do this for their facilities, but also encourage it to residents and businesses. And then we also spoke with the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition, which is a nonprofit that is basically centered around information sharing and, again, resources. So these are two organizations that can help the village with any new facilities, or if you ever just want to get a free energy assessment, and they can then help you through receiving any rebates or other financial incentives, which we then in our report recommend that those rebates and incentives be entered into a renewable energy fund that can eventually support potentially solar on top of one of your buildings. There's more in the report, and I hope you all get a chance to read it. But again, this is kind of a high-level overview. In terms of waste reduction, I mean, the biggest thing with waste reduction is always outreach and education on material acceptance guidelines, and there are a lot of ways that this can happen in the village. One of the things that we tried to do with this report was find ways for the village to continue to utilize their partnership with the University Alliance and utilize this labor and time and energy that students can give to the village to complete some of these goals. So we met with Justin Montani from Lakeshore Recycling Services, who is the waste and recycling hauler for the village. And he was more than willing to work with us and work with the village on not only sharing existing materials that the village can disperse and disseminate to residents, which are linked in our report, but also to develop new ones, especially focusing on some special topics such as lithium ion batteries, which cause hazard and safety issues, and plastic grocery bags. But we were thinking that if, especially with future student projects or partnering with student classes, you could have students disseminate this information, especially through the use of Engage DeForest, to increase your landfill diversion via recycling. And then we also looked into composting and organics management that the village could take to continue to divert material from the landfill. So in this report, you'll find some public options such as expanding local community garden composting. We wrote a bit about the Clean Fill site where village residents can bring their brush and their yard waste, etc. We also spoke to a number of private options in the area and found that many companies were willing to subsidize or give great deals to village residents, village businesses, or the village themselves. There are all these options in our report again, and that there's funding available to support public and private. And then especially as the LRS contract has 2 years left in it, we also recommend exploring other haulers and other options. And then in terms of water and wetland preservation, we got to know over the course of this past semester a lot about the physical geography of DeForest and its siting in the Upper Yahara and the problems that come with all of the wetlands that might come into possession of the village, and the desire of the village to not only conserve those wetlands, but also to find value out of them, such as by creating parks or allowing public access. So we looked into a couple of options for that and also other areas in which the village can practice some environmental stewardship. So we looked into flood mitigation, kind of expanding on Heidi Putnam's work that she finished for you guys, such as expanding green infrastructure projects that follow her priority areas framework. And this can also be done with the help of UW-Madison Engineering or landscape architecture students. We were thinking they could design and plan green infrastructure projects, even something as simple as rain gardens in problem areas like those frequent flooded parks in the village that we grew to know about. And then we also found some funding options. And then we looked into some local options, some local government options for conserving wetlands, specifically in partnership with the Wisconsin Wetlands Alliance, who again was more than happy to help out, provide expertise and knowledge that we might not necessarily have. And so in terms of policy, one of the easiest options to take is developing a model wetlands conservation ordinance with this tool that they provide and with their support. And in terms of planning, we can establish local rules about setbacks, distances, and indirect contaminants to waterways. But this process is usually site-based, so we weren't able to give the specific rundown as we're looking at the village as a whole. And then we also explored the option of wetland banking and using the Clean Water Act to potentially complete some enhancements upon those lands, receive some funding and a long-term investment, and continue to allow public access to some of these lands. But overall, we just want to say thank you so much to everybody who provided us with so much information and expertise, because truly this would not have been able to happen without them, especially Judd Blau, Bill Chang, and Stacy Harmon. They are 3 members of the village staff who have been of great support to us.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that extremely. I'm very, very gracious for this opportunity. And I think Carolyn and I have both learned a lot about our skills and about how, local governments structures and just everything that we've learned throughout this. It's been extremely valuable, and I'm very appreciative of the help that we all received. And I just want to thank you again all so much for your time tonight and for listening to us. And as I mentioned before, all of this will be published on the Engage DeForest site. And our report has been linked in this meeting agenda. So we appreciate if any of you want to reach out with any questions later. I would love to speak with anybody who has more questions.
Thank you. And we appreciate the work you've done on this. Are there any comments or questions? Yeah, Bill?
Yeah, thank you for doing this, your report. You're in the know of the current trends, being at the university, hopefully you're on top of it. Recycling, public awareness of the packaging that they create is the biggest thing. I was in Woodman's today. I had choices: glass bottle, plastic bottle, paper, plastic bags that is noted aren't recyclable. My wife takes them to the grocery store, she saves them up. So, you know, I was a child of the 60s and 70s where the green earth, this and that, I think we've lost that. But recycling, what is the percentage of plastics that actually gets repurposed? Because I don't think a lot of people know that China does not buy our plastics anymore. It gets sent to Indonesia, it gets landfilled, but they feel good. I know cardboard, the percentage is pretty high. We're in the paper land. We have the facilities. We don't have to pay exorbitant shipping rates to a recycling facility to do cardboard. We have within 100 miles, 120 miles, we have the world's best paper plants. But this plastic thing, you have I've heard a percentage of 5% of plastics actually, because it's cheaper to use virgin plastic than to recycle. Is it 5%? Is that true? And the rest gets burned, landfilled as a percentage? Let's just say plastics. Cardboard, I think, is pretty high, but what's your, at the university, what's your knowledge of that number? Am I pretty close on that?
So I can speak to this because in my role in the Office of Sustainability at the university, I specifically work on zero waste. So lots and lots of recycling, outreach and education, landfill diversion. I will say I don't have a specific number for all plastics globally. And I think that it's kind of difficult sometimes to get that number because there are so many different types of plastics because of their chemical structure. And new ones continue to come out. And it also depends on what your local material recovery facility, your MRF, you have one in DeForest, can accept and what is economical for them at the time. The fact of the matter is it's an economical based process. And so if there's not an economy for something, it's not going to be reused in the same way, which I can hear what you're saying. And it is definitely frustrating at times. I think that there are very important and valuable ways, though, to increase landfill diversion by recycling, with education, with outreach, with ensuring people know what is recycled the best. And I think one of the ways that you guys could do that is by encouraging tours, even at the material recovery facility in DeForest, which Justin told us could be a potential option. But no, I do not have the specific percentage for all plastics.
Oh, and just to add, I have 2 4x4 foot compost bins in my yard. I'm lucky to have a half-acre lot in town. The nearest residents are 300 feet away, so I can get away with some more odors that other people couldn't. But the biggest thing that's destroying that, in your report, you talk about kitchen waste, things like that, recycling, is the garbage disposal. I don't have one, never had one, never will have one. But there are a certain percentage of people that would do the green recycling. But Madison's trying it, I think, to some degree. So it's going to be interesting to see if that works. But we need to focus on a few things instead of all, you know, you guys have quite an agenda of things, but we need to take some of these and work on them, excuse me, first, and then grow on that. But thank you for all you've done to research stuff and give us the ideas.
Thank you, Bill. We'll move on. Rebecca.
Yeah, just a very quick thank you. This was really good. I was really interested in making our buildings more efficient than what they already are. In what you were studying, and maybe Judd can speak to this one, how many LED lights do we use? Or do we use more of the traditional types or fluorescents,
Almost everything's LED.
including these?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So there's things like that, I think, that are really important. I know when we built our place, tore down the old and built new, we had everything LED'd. And our energy costs went way down. And it's like a house that's 2 or 3 times bigger. So, I mean, there's ways we can really efficientize. And I like some of these suggestions that you guys gave. Because the more we can do, one, it saves us money in the long run. But 2, I mean, it does help to reduce potential pollutants. So, yeah, thank you. This was very, very helpful. I'm going to be reading more thoroughly.
All right. Anything else? If not, let's move forward. There is no new business, so we'll move to a presentation of resolutions and ordinances. Item 10.1, Resolution 2025-002, a resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute an intermunicipal community center and senior programs agreement with the village of Windsor and the town of Vienna.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Is there any discussion or comment? If not, all those in favor signify by saying, oh,
I can summarize it if you would like.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
We moved to.
So as you know, for the last about 6 months here, we've been negotiating a new intergovernmental agreement, excuse me, between the Villas of DeForest, the Villas of Windsor and Vienna, which would allow the DeForest Community Center and Senior Center to be able to organize as its independent organization. As a nonprofit, but still keep its status under WRS. They believe that they're able to do that. And as you can see in the agreement, obviously with it being an intergovernmental agreement, has language in there that allows for it to obtain nonprofit status. Other updates to the agreement include streamlining some of the processes, the timing of when a budget is proposed and approved or denied. We took a look at control and governance of the organization, who gets elected on the board or appointed to the board. I believe the number of board members were reduced. I believe currently there's 2 representing each community. That's been reduced to 1. And so we took the opportunity to clean this up a bit. And it was quite an effort to get to a spot here where, all 4 agencies agreed. This agreement has been approved by the Community Center Board, has been approved by the Village Board of Windsor and also the Town Board. So we're the last government here. Once this is approved, the community center can then move forward. There's still quite some negotiation that will need to happen, primarily with the Half Century Club and what happens with the land and the facility. The hope is to have it all kind of collaborate underneath the nonprofit organization when it does do so. And so once that gets resolved, that those agreements get resolved, I believe after this is approved, the community center is going to start to apply for the nonprofit status. You'll see in the agreement, it does allow for the opportunity to seek a fiscal agent, whether it's the Village of Windsor or the Village of DeForest. Currently, they're with the Village of Windsor, who does their fiscal, acts as their fiscal agent and also as their employer for the staff. So again, we've put together this agreement. It's at a spot where we're favorable of it and would recommend approval. I'll take any questions.
And I just might mention while we're discussing, Jan worked hard on this agreement and she's our representative on the Cornerstone Board and on the Half Century Club. So we had very good representation. Thank you. Yes, Tashidra.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you, Jan and Bill, for working on this, sitting on this committee and working with both of those municipalities. It is not like sitting on the library committee, just so you know. It is not easy to have 3 different municipalities coming together and trying to make decisions and work cohesively together. So I think being able to get this document drafted, getting these 3 municipalities to come together and make an agreement is just a huge testament to just the work that you guys are doing. And I'm so grateful that we're able to offer this to all of our communities and have such an amazing center for the community to enjoy. And I think being able to move forward as a nonprofit, hopefully will give them the opportunity to get more funding and to be able to do more programming for our community and for the community members as a whole. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you for all the hard work. And I can't wait to say yes in voting for this.
Al was also a big part of it, and Jane, Al probably created most of the issues.
And thank you, Al, for all your hard work. I stand corrected, and thank you so much for all that you do as well. We do appreciate you.
All right. Then we have yes, Jim.
I'm just a bit curious. You said that it was the attendance was minimized, I'll say, from 2 to 1. Was there a reasoning or just more or less just to keep the board smaller?
We're reducing the board from 9 members total to 7. And so that's just, it would just find that a little bit smaller number is a little bit easier to handle and make decisions and that sort of thing. So.
Okay.
So.
Okay. With that, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10.2, ordinance 2025-001, an ordinance creating section 3.061 AA of the DeForest Municipal Code to prohibit parking on Dentel Road. Judd or Chief, you wanna?
So this is the newly annexed in areas that came from Burke. There's a new building that's gone up at the end of Dentil Road there. That lower parcel on the property has a 150,000 square foot building, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. But it's heavily truck traffic. The industrial spec building is there. We'll probably also deliver some of that. This is a very rural segment of road. It's maybe 24 feet wide at the widest point. And the banks, the steepness on the ditch lines on the side is prohibitive of parking vehicles. So we just don't want to have vehicles parked there, especially with the amount of semi-truck traffic, hills and whatnot, that we want to make sure that it stays rural and there's not parking that's prohibited there.
Yes, Rebecca.
2 things. One, I'm going to move to approve, but I do have a question. As at where the residential area is and on the curve there, yes, but take the arrow up, over slightly to the right. No, the other right. Yeah, right there, right in that. No, up, down. Okay. Right in that area. There, when I was driving buses and I had to go back in there were vehicles that would be parked on that side of the road as you're coming around that curve. There's
So-
like a little,
There's our lift station is there, so that sometimes our vehicles, it could be a village
I
vehicle.
think I
that's parked
saw
there.
other people's vehicles there.
Those could be vehicles from the Tesnick, and that's private property, so.
Okay,
there's-
that's what I was wondering. Is that private or is that part of?
They have a parking lot there, or a place where they store trailers and whatnot, I think, for Vitesniks.
Okay, so this would not affect that, though?
Nope,
It would only affect on the actual road
on the roadway itself.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, other questions? If not, I would.
Second. She didn't have a second. I'll second her.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there are no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the check register was available in your packets, committee, commission, and board reports. Also available in your packets. And we'll go through the updates. DeForest Area Library. Tashidra?
I have nothing.
Okay. DeForest Public Safety Commission. Colleen?
Public safety approved one operator's license, short meeting.
Okay. DeForest Area Community and Senior Center.
Of course, we just went through the intermunicipal agreement and we're happy about that now that we're able to move on to the next step, which is submitting the forms to the IRS and Social Security. But besides that, we also, at our last meeting last week, looked at two plans from Beerbicker. The engineers provided in regards to the new parking lot. And then there's going to be a little fitness area put in. The current entrance to the parking lot is going to be moved to the east on Highway V from where it's currently at. And then there'll be a new parking lot down there is what we've kind of agreed to. And then to the east of that will be the fitness center, which is not really a center. It's not a building or anything like that. It's just going to be a place to work out. So we're not even sure the material that's going to be used, if it's going to be concrete or something else. And then there is an older parking lot right there on the corner where those four corners are. That extra one, that would be ripped up and be made to green space because it needs to be completely redone anyways. The rest of the parking lot was done, I think, this past summer, the other part of the parking lot, but we didn't do that part because it's a complete redo. So that's it. And then the last thing was last Friday, I got to meet Eliza, Jim Simpson's daughter, who has been working at the center for a few months now. So that was a nice opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I heard how well you showed off your yoga skills or whatever strength training. So.
Oh, yeah, my workout skills. Yes. And so it was fun getting to re-meet her because I haven't met her since she's been a small child and now she's an adult. So it was kind of fun catching up.
Amazing how that happens.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. The Community Development Authority. What did we do at our last meeting? Go for it.
Nobody? Okay. We had a presentation from Kaylor Slater on very preliminary design concept for the CDA's new redevelopment building. That was exciting. And then we also issued a jurisdictional offer to purchase and a relocation order to the property owner of 420 North Main.
That's right. I never know what of some of that stuff we want to share loudly with the world. So I appreciate that. Hesitant, yes, yes. Planning and Zoning Commission, Jim?
Yes, we had a couple concepts presented to us from Classic Custom Homes. One of them that's actually going to be discussed tonight and closed session, or partly. We had some conversations about Peterson Crossing Boulevard, the covered bridge holdings, which I think that's on the closed agenda too. We had discussions on DeForest Yards. I don't remember exactly what was with that one. Yeah, something with the size of the building. Oh, yeah. Sorry, this was quite a while ago. Yeah, we reviewed sort of like the site plan change that the building actually got larger. So quite an improvement. And next thing was an exception for square footage of signing on Cake Parkway. People know where that is. It's along the interstate. That discussion took quite some time and we did get through that. But why I mention that is after that discussion, it was getting rather late and we did have two rather other important topics, zone or changes to chapter 13 of our subdivision and development code and chapter 15 of our zoning code. So we maybe had a short discussion, but tabled those decisions for a different night.
Okay. And then you want to keep going and do public services?
Public services, I have the December 16th still to report on, I believe. And that was quite a bit of discussion on the fluoride again. That was the main discussion was led by the Brenda Stoudemire that was here tonight. And then some follow-up on that. We talked about changing the public services meeting and I didn't take good notes on that, but I think our next public service meeting is next Monday.
This coming Monday, it'll be virtual, Zoom only.
On Zoom only. And then the last, yep, I guess it was again, the fluoridation where we passed on our recommendation to the village board. So that was it.
Thank you. All right, and then we have DeForest Windsor Fire and EMS District, and as Bill reported in his administrative update, we really focused on selecting the proposals that came in from engineering and architectural firm for substation number 2. And so we've had a lot of focus on that. I've decided, even though you're an engineering, Jim, I'm not trying to, but architects and engineers don't necessarily provide real fun proposals to read. And we had a stack of them like that. So, yeah. Anyway.
I read those every day.
Well, I may have you go over some of these just for comments. So anyway, that has been a big focus. And so then we'll move, we had also from Bill a report on some upcoming DCCVA training sessions. And I think that was the only thing I had. So I would then entertain a motion to convene into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Who was the
Would you
second?
note roll call, please?
Who was the second?
Bill?
Do you want me to do the roll call? Okay. Trustee Simpson,
Aye.
trustee Stefan Hagan-Han,
Aye.
trustee Witherspoon,
Aye.
trustee Allen,
Aye.
trustee Langraff,
Aye.
trustee Little,
Aye.
and President Cahill Wolfgram.
Aye.
Okay.
Well, they're getting set up. I would. Yeah.
Okay. Jane, we're good.
Okay, we're good. All right.
When the kids are.
All right, we're back in open session. If there is any other business to come before the board, please let me know. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
We have a motion by Rebecca and a second by Tashidra to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're adjourned at 8:34 PM.